She thought it was love, she thought it was safe, she was wrong. I'm Melanie, I'm 27, and I live in Seattle. I work as a designer, mostly interior spaces, sometimes branding gigs, and for a while, everything in my life felt like it was finally lining up the way I'd always dreamed. My career was stable, I had a decent apartment near Capitol Hill, and most importantly, I was engaged to Jason, the guy I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. Jason and I had been together for 4 years. We met at a design conference in Portland. He was a software engineer who wandered into one of the panels I was speaking on because his friend bailed. After the talk, he came up to me and said something corny about the lighting in my slideshow, and I laughed. The rest was that slow, comfortable kind of history you think only exists in movies. We moved in together a year later. He was neat, thoughtful, kind. Not showy, not overly romantic, but dependable in a way that felt real. He always remembered to fill the gas tank in my car, always left the last bite of dessert for me, always brought me tea when I had cramps. It was easy to picture a future with him. So when he proposed last spring on a quiet trail near Mount Rainier, I said yes without a second of hesitation. We picked a September wedding date. Not too hot, not too cold. My parents were thrilled. My dad even teared up a little, which he never does. My mom launched into planning mode immediately. She's that type of mom who lives for Pinterest boards and event binders. I wanted something small, outdoors, with lots of greenery and candles. Jason was happy to let me lead, just asking that we serve tacos at the reception and not do the whole bouquet toss thing. Fair enough. Helping me through it all was my best friend, Alex. We met our freshman year at UW. She lived 2 doors down in the dorms and once knocked on my door at midnight looking for Advil. We've been through everything together since. Internships, breakups, shitty landlords, road trips. That one time we both dyed our hair red and immediately regretted it. She's the sister I never had. Naturally, Alex was my maid of honor. She dove into helping with planning without hesitation, dress appointments, food tastings, flower samples, managing the group chat with the bridesmaids. She even found the perfect venue. This little family-run vineyard north of the city with these big weeping willows and a converted barn that looked straight out of a wedding magazine. Everything felt right. It felt good. A month before the wedding, Jason started acting a little off. Nothing huge, just small things. He was more distracted, a little short sometimes. He said work was stressful, and I believed him. His team was launching a new platform, and he was pulling a lot of late nights. I didn't want to be the nagging fiancé, so I let it go. Then there was this one Saturday morning, about 3 weeks out from the wedding. We were supposed to go pick up his suit from the tailor. I'd made an appointment. He never showed. I texted, no answer. I called, went to voicemail. I even called Alex to see if she'd heard from him. She said she hadn't, but something in her voice didn't sit right with me. She sounded flat, like she was reading from a script. He texted me back that evening. Said he'd fallen asleep on the couch after working late and missed the alarm. Apologized. I told him it was okay, but I couldn't shake the feeling in my gut that something was wrong. I started noticing other things after that. One night, I came home early from a client meeting and found Jason in our bedroom, shutting his laptop really fast when I walked in. Nothing unusual was open on the screen when I asked to see it, just a YouTube video about hiking gear. But again, that gut feeling. The same one you get when you know you've forgotten something important but can't remember what. A week later, I finally confronted him. We were sitting on the couch, eating takeout, and I just asked, point blank, is there something going on? Are you okay? Is there anything you need to tell me? He looked surprised at first, then tired. Really tired. Like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. He shook his head. No, he said. Everything's fine. It wasn't. 2 days after that, I was at Alex's place. We were going over the final guest list and doing little gift bags for the wedding party. She seemed nervous, jittery, kept glancing at her phone. I figured she was just stressed, but again, something was off. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was all the little moments adding up. Maybe it was just instinct. But when she stepped out to take a call, I glanced at her phone on the table. The screen was still lit up from the notification that had come through. It was a message preview. From Jason. I wish I hadn't read it. I really wish I hadn't. But I did. It said, I hate this. I hate lying to her. That's it. One line. But it hit me like a truck. My whole body went cold. When Alex came back into the room, I could barely look at her. I felt sick. I made up an excuse to leave, practically ran down her stairs, got into my car, and just sat there. Breathing. Shaking. Crying. I didn't confront them right away. I couldn't. I needed to be sure. So I did what I thought I'd never do. I went through Jason's laptop while he was in the shower a few days later. And there it was. Emails. Messages. Photos. It had been going on for months. I don't know how it started. I didn't want to read everything. I just saw enough to know. Enough to destroy me. My best friend. My fiancé. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there. I waited for him to come out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, humming like nothing was wrong. And I said, "How long?" His face went white. That's all the confirmation I needed. He tried to explain, said it just happened, that they never meant to hurt me, that it was a mistake. But you don't accidentally cheat on your partner for months. You don't accidentally lie to their face over and over. You don't accidentally plan a future with someone while sleeping with the person they trust most in the world. I packed a bag that night, told him the wedding was off, told my parents everything. My dad offered to go talk to him, and I had to beg him not to make things worse. My mom cried for hours. Alex didn't even try to explain. She sent one text a few days later that said, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen." I never responded. It's been 3 months. I canceled everything. The venue, the florist, the band. Lost a lot of money on non-refundable deposits, but I didn't care. I moved out of our apartment, got a sublet with a roommate I barely know in Ballard. It's not perfect, but it's mine. I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust someone like that again. The betrayal didn't just break my heart. It cracked something deeper. But I'm still here. I'm still standing. And I didn't let them break me completely. I should have seen it sooner. It wasn't one big moment or some dramatic revelation. It was quiet things, little changes that crawled under my skin and sat there, humming. At first, I told myself I was imagining it, that I was just stressed, that it was the wedding pressure and the million details piling up in my brain. But deep down, something wasn't sitting right. It started with the way Alex and Jason talked to each other. Too casual, too frequent. At first, I thought it was sweet that they got along. Alex had always been the kind of person who either clicked with someone immediately or didn't bother at all. Jason was quieter, slower to warm up, but once he let someone in, he let them all the way in. So when they started texting more, joking with each other, I figured it was a good thing. That it meant we were all going to blend into one of those seamless little trio families that show up in Instagram stories with matching mugs. But then I started noticing things. I'd come into the room and they'd stop talking, like the conversation had hit an invisible wall. I'd ask what they were laughing about and get vague answers. Oh, just some meme? Or just being dumb? Jason started making inside jokes that I didn't understand, and Alex would laugh too hard, like they were part of some secret club I wasn't in. They'd trade glances across the room that didn't mean anything on paper, but somehow always left a bitter taste in my mouth. One night we were all at my place folding wedding invites, and Jason made a comment about a restaurant I'd never heard of. "Remember that place with the tiny tacos and the weird wallpaper?" he said, looking at Alex, not me. She nodded, smiling, and said, "Oh my God, yes, the bathroom with the blue light." I sat there holding a stack of RSVP cards, wondering when the two of them had gone out to eat without me. I didn't say anything, just tucked it away in that part of your brain that stores quiet betrayals. It got worse after that. I started noticing that Jason would sometimes lock his phone, even when he was just scrolling, that he always tilted the screen slightly away when I sat next to him. Alex started taking longer to reply to my texts, but would answer his within minutes. I caught myself doing things I hated, checking her social media, seeing when she was online, scrolling through the photos she liked. I even asked Jason casually if he'd noticed she seemed distant lately, and he just shrugged and said she was probably tired. Then came the messages. It wasn't even a full snoop session. I wasn't digging through his phone with a flashlight under the covers or hacking into anything. He'd left his laptop open in the kitchen while he was in the shower. I was making coffee, reaching for my mug, when a notification popped up on the screen. It was from Alex. Just a preview. Last night was, and then it cut off. I didn't even finish reading it before my heart dropped straight into my stomach. I stood there for a long time. I don't know how long. 10 seconds? A minute? The smell of the coffee started turning my stomach. I opened the laptop and clicked on the message thread before I could talk myself out of it. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't not look. And what I saw made my hands go cold. It wasn't a smoking gun. No naked pictures. No explicit confessions. But it was enough. There were jokes with layers I didn't understand. Phrases like, "Let's not do that again," and "You looked good in that shirt, by the way." References to nights I couldn't place, to places I hadn't been, to moments I hadn't shared. It wasn't just friendly. It wasn't innocent. It was flirty, secretive, and way too familiar. I didn't confront him. Not right away. I closed the laptop and walked back to the bedroom like nothing had happened. My heart was beating so fast I thought I might throw up. When he came out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, joking about how bad the water pressure was, I nodded and laughed and kissed his cheek like everything was normal. But in my head, everything was spinning. For the next week, I went full detective mode. Quietly, methodically. I didn't want to believe it. Part of me still thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe they were just being weird. Maybe it was all in my head. But I needed to know for sure. I started watching everything. Listening harder. Taking mental notes. Jason had a password on his phone now. He hadn't before. I caught him deleting messages once, but when I asked what he was doing, he said he was clearing old junk. Alex stopped tagging me in posts. Her tone shifted when we talked, polite, but distant, like she was keeping something inside and it was taking effort not to let it spill. I even went back through my old texts with her. Read them all. Every emoji, every exclamation point. Trying to pinpoint the moment when the friendship I trusted started to turn into something else. I couldn't find it. It just bled in, like dye in water. I told myself I wouldn't act until I had proof. Real proof. Something undeniable. Because once I moved, there'd be no going back. I'd seen what happened when people made accusations without backup. It became your word against theirs, and suddenly you're the one who seems crazy. I wasn't going to let that happen to me. So I waited. I watched. And the whole time, I smiled at the people who were quietly gutting me from the inside out. We were at my parents' house, sitting around the dining table with plates of lemon chicken, roasted potatoes, and that weird kale salad my mom insists everyone likes even though nobody touches it. It was supposed to be a celebratory dinner. A wedding planning checkpoint. That's how my mom put it. My dad grilled steaks. Jason brought a bottle of wine he claimed he'd researched, and Alex, because of course she was there, walked in late, looking flawless as always, holding a box of macarons from that overpriced bakery downtown. It was normal on the surface. The kind of night you smile through. My mom kept asking about color palettes and floral arrangements, and Jason was playing the helpful fiancé role so well it almost made me forget. Almost. But underneath that polished surface, I was vibrating. Because I had finally found something I couldn't unsee. The night before, I'd been trying to email a vendor from Jason's laptop. He asked me to handle it since he was running late at work. I wasn't even snooping at that point. But as I typed the vendor's name into the Gmail search bar, it auto-filled with another thread. Alex plus hotel confirmation. My fingers hovered. I stared at it for a long time before clicking. And there it was. An email thread, dozens of messages long. Booking confirmations. Plans. Jokes. One message from Alex read, "It felt wrong, but it also didn't. I keep thinking about that night at the Columbia." Jason had replied, "We're not bad people. We just didn't expect this." There were no explicit photos, no screaming declarations of love. But it didn't need to be spelled out. It was clear. It was real. And it was over. I didn't say anything that night. I took screenshots and emailed them to myself, saved them on my phone. Then I waited. So there we were the next day, sitting around that table, laughing about my dad's refusal to try almond milk, when Jason got up to grab another bottle of wine from the kitchen. He left his phone behind. Alex was laughing at something my brother had said, completely at ease. Like she hadn't taken a wrecking ball to my life and smiled through the dust. I reached across the table, picked up Jason's phone, and pulled up the email. The same thread. It was still there. He hadn't deleted it. Maybe he thought I'd never look. Or maybe he just didn't care. I stood up and turned the phone toward the center of the table. "This," I said, my voice flat but loud enough to cut through the conversation, "is what you two have been doing behind my back." The table fell silent. Forks hovered in midair. My mom's mouth was open like she'd just forgotten how to speak. My dad put his glass down hard enough to make it clink. Alex froze. Jason walked back into the room holding the wine bottle and stopped dead when he saw what I was showing. "What is this?" my mom asked, blinking. Jason tried to play it cool, like this was just some minor misunderstanding. "Mel, come on, not here," he said, setting the bottle down. "Let's not make this a thing." I turned to him slowly. "Not make this a thing? You've been sleeping with my best friend." He actually had the audacity to sigh, like I was being dramatic. "You're taking this out of context," he said. "It's complicated, okay? You're being emotional right now." That word, emotional, hit like a slap. He said it in that calm, condescending tone, like I was a child throwing a tantrum instead of a woman catching her fiancé in an affair with her maid of honor. "Do not gaslight me," I said through clenched teeth. My mom grabbed the phone and started scrolling. Her face changed with every message she read. "Jason," she said quietly, "what is this?" Alex tried to speak then, her voice shaking. "It wasn't planned. We didn't mean for anything to happen. It was just," she trailed off, realizing how pathetic she sounded. My dad looked between them, and for a second I saw pure disgust in his eyes. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered. Jason stepped forward like he was going to try and calm me down, and I backed away. "Don't," I said. "Don't you dare come near me." "You don't understand," he said again, like I was some irrational mess, not a person whose life he'd just set on fire. "You've been distant. You've been so obsessed with this wedding that you didn't see how things were changing." My mouth fell open. "You're blaming me?" Alex didn't say anything. She just stared down at her plate, like if she didn't move, this would all go away. I turned to my mom. "You still want that Pinterest perfect wedding? Go ahead. Ask Jason and Alex to plan it. They've been practicing behind my back." Nobody said a word. The silence was suffocating. I grabbed my coat, my bag, and walked out the door without another word. Jason didn't follow. Neither did Alex. My mom called my name, but I kept walking. And just like that, the illusion cracked and fell apart. Right there in the middle of my mother's perfect dinner table. The morning after that dinner, I woke up in my childhood bedroom, staring at the same ceiling I used to lie under in high school when I couldn't sleep. Except this time there were no college acceptance letters taped to the wall, no dumb Polaroids of me and Alex making faces at concerts. I'd taken everything down years ago. The walls were bare now. Fitting, I guess. Like everything else had been stripped away too. I didn't cry. Not that morning. I'd cried enough the night before. I remember walking out of my parents' house after that dinner like I was weightless. Not in a good way, more like my insides had been hollowed out. I slept for maybe 4 hours, fully dressed on top of the comforter, and when I woke up, I knew what I had to do. There was no working it out. No pause. No therapy. No long talks where we try to salvage what was left. Because there was nothing left. I sent Jason a single text. The wedding is off. I'll have someone come by for my things. Do not contact me. That was it. I didn't want to hear his excuses. I didn't want another round of, "You're being emotional," or "It's complicated." I didn't need to hear his voice. I already knew how it would sound. Soft, practiced, like a man trying to look calm while keeping control. I wasn't giving him that chance. As for Alex, I didn't say anything to her at all. She didn't deserve even a goodbye. She tried, though. Texted me 3 days later, something pathetic like, "Can we talk?" As if this was just some friendship spat we'd bounce back from. Like she hadn't torched over a decade of trust because she couldn't keep her hands off my fiancé. I didn't answer. She tried again the next day. I blocked her. Jason emailed me once, some long rambling thing about how confused he was, how it started with emotional support and turned into something else, how he never wanted to hurt me. I deleted it without reading past the first line. My friend Claire went to the apartment while Jason was at work and picked up my things. She said most of it was still boxed from when I was prepping for the move after the wedding. I guess even he knew it was over. The aftermath hit like a bomb. My mom was livid, for a while, at Jason, but mostly at the mess. She hated that the story was spreading through the family. Hated that the invitations were already out. My dad stood by me. Said he'd never respected Jason much anyway. That he was all surface and no spine. But then there were the others. My aunt, Alex's mom, called me and said something that I'll never forget. "They made a mistake, Melanie. People do. Don't let pride ruin your life." I hung up on her. A few cousins reached out to say they were sorry, but I could tell from their texts that they were dancing around the real issue. Some even said things like, "I hope you three can find a way forward." Like this was just some awkward love triangle in a sitcom. Not a full-scale betrayal from two people who'd claimed to love me. So yeah, the family split. Holidays got weird. Group chats got quieter. I heard Alex still shows up at some of the same gatherings, pretending nothing happened. Jason's disappeared. I don't know if they're still together. I don't care. I moved out of Seattle a month after everything blew up. I found a loft in Tacoma, smaller, older, but it has big windows and this creaky staircase I weirdly love. I started freelancing full-time. Took on projects I'd been putting off for years. Joined a community art collective. Got coffee with people I didn't have history with. Bought a new couch that didn't have memories stitched into the cushions. Started sleeping better. For a while, it was strange, building a life from scratch when I thought I already had the blueprint. I'd see brides on the street and feel my stomach twist. I'd hear Alex's laugh in my head when I walked past certain restaurants. But over time, it dulled. Like a scar fading into your skin. It doesn't disappear, but you stop noticing it. And honestly, I think I'm better now. Not healed in some cheesy, everything happens for a reason way. Just steady. There's something quiet and strong about getting up after being knocked flat. Something clean about walking away from the rubble and never looking back. That's what I did. I left it behind. All of it. And I don't miss a thing. It started with a letter. Handwritten, which was so unlike him that I almost didn't recognize the slanted, blocky handwriting at first. It showed up at my door 2 months after I'd left everything behind. No return address, no warning, just a thin envelope tucked between my electric bill and some pizza flyer. For a second, I thought it might have been from one of my old clients. But when I opened it and saw his name at the bottom, I felt that familiar cold grip in my chest. Jason. The letter was 2 pages of polished regret. He wrote about how sorry he was, how he'd lost sight of who he was, how what happened with Alex wasn't what it looked like. That line almost made me laugh. Like the emails weren't already burned into my brain. He said he thought about me every day, that he missed our life, that he didn't expect forgiveness, but hoped I'd consider talking. Just once, just to see where we stood. I didn't respond. 2 weeks later, he showed up at my building. I saw him through the peephole, standing there with a ridiculous bouquet of tulips. My favorite, of course, because he remembered things like that. I didn't open the door. Just stood there, heart hammering in my chest, watching him shift his weight from foot to foot, holding those stupid flowers like they were a peace offering instead of proof that he hadn't learned a single thing. He stayed for 5 minutes, knocked once, then left the flowers on the welcome mat and walked away. I threw them out without even taking them inside. Then came Alex. Not in person, she knew better than to try that, but through the grapevine. Mutual friends started mentioning things she was saying, that I was being dramatic, that I was overreacting, that I'd torn the family apart because I couldn't handle the idea that maybe I wasn't the center of everything. The part that really got to me wasn't even what she said. It was that some people believed her. They wanted a version of events where this whole mess was somehow equally my fault, where I chose bitterness over reconciliation, like I was the one who'd betrayed someone. She even texted me once, out of nowhere, a paragraph that started with, "I hope you're happy," and ended with, "You've turned everyone against each other." I didn't respond. I blocked her again, but the word stuck for a while, longer than I want to admit. I started seeing a therapist after that. I hadn't planned to. It wasn't some grand realization. Just one day I woke up and realized I couldn't keep carrying all this alone. The weight of it was leaking into everything: my work, my sleep, my ability to trust anyone. I couldn't even look at new clients without wondering if they'd screw me over too. So I made the call. I found someone who specialized in betrayal trauma, and I showed up every Thursday for that 1 hour and just talked. It was harder than I thought. Not the talking, but the honesty. Saying things out loud that I hadn't even admitted to myself. Like how humiliated I felt. How sometimes I still missed the version of Jason I thought was real. How losing Alex hurt in a completely different, almost childlike way. Like having a piece of your history stolen. But week by week, it got easier. My therapist helped me understand that grief isn't just for the dead. That you can grieve a future, a friendship, a version of yourself. And that didn't make me weak. It made me human. In the meantime, my friends stepped up. The real ones. Claire started inviting me to her place every Sunday for what she called debrief brunch. It was just pancakes and coffee, but something about being there in her noisy kitchen with her dog knocking over mugs and her roommate yelling at football on the TV made me feel steady again. My friend Melissa got me a gig redesigning a bookstore cafe in West Seattle, which ended up being the most therapeutic work I'd done in years. And my coworker Jenna, who I barely knew before all this, became one of those unexpected people you meet right when you need them. She never asked for details. She just listened. And sometimes, that was all I needed. There were still bad days. Nights when I'd wake up in a panic, thinking I was back in that apartment with Jason. Or random moments, like walking past a wedding dress boutique or hearing a song from our playlist at the grocery store, that hit like a punch to the ribs. But those moments started to fade. Not disappear, but blur around the edges. I started building a new life. Not some picture-perfect glow-up. Just small, quiet changes. I painted my new living room a warm yellow. I deleted all the wedding boards off Pinterest. I stopped checking Jason's social media. I stopped checking Alex's altogether. I took myself out to dinner one night, sat at the bar, ordered what I wanted, and didn't feel embarrassed to eat alone. And somewhere in all of that, I realized I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was actually living again. On my terms. With no secrets under the surface. No hidden messages. No one waiting to pull the rug out from under me. I wasn't the same person I was before any of this happened. But I think that's the point. I didn't just move on. I rebuilt. Not better. Just real. Just honest. And that was enough. I wasn't even trying to find out. That's the part that still makes me laugh a little when I think about it. I wasn't stalking them. Wasn't digging through anything. I was just grabbing coffee one afternoon with Melissa when one of our old mutuals, Erica, popped into the cafe, spotted me, and said it like it was no big deal. "So weird seeing you here. I just got Jason and Alex's save the date. Can you believe it?" I froze mid-sip. The coffee burned going down, but I didn't even blink. "Excuse me?" I asked, very calmly, because I could feel Melissa already bracing for impact. Erica looked confused. "Oh, I thought. Well, I guess I assumed you knew. They're getting married in June. It's at that vineyard in Woodinville. You know, the one with the weeping willows. Super cute." And just like that, I was transported back to the day Alex and I found that venue together. The way she squealed when she saw the barn. How she made me take a photo of her under the willow tree for the vision board. That was supposed to be my wedding. I nodded, told Erica I had to go, and left without finishing my drink. I didn't cry this time. I didn't scream or throw anything. I sat in my car with the engine running, just staring at the dashboard while this strange, cold calm settled into my chest. They were getting married. After everything. After the betrayal, the lies, the humiliation, they were planning to stand in front of a crowd and pretend their story was something beautiful. Like it hadn't been carved out of someone else's ruin. Like they were a love story worth celebrating. And the worst part? No one was going to say anything. People were going to show up. Smile. Clap. drink champagne, and dance like they didn't know the truth. Because that's how people are. They forget. They move on. They don't want drama. They want a show. So I decided to give them one. I didn't make a plan right away. It brewed slowly. I sat with it for a week, maybe two. I thought about the guest list. About all the people who had smiled in my face during my engagement and were now RSVPing yes to this circus. I thought about the way Alex had said I was destroying the family, while she picked out centerpieces with the man who'd lied to my face for months. I didn't want revenge just for the pain. I wanted it for the silence that followed. The way everyone treated it like something unfortunate, not unforgivable. I wanted them to feel the weight of what they'd done, publicly, in daylight, with no way to spin it. So I RSVP'd yes. I still had one of the old dresses I'd bought for my own rehearsal dinner. Sleek. Black. Simple. It still fit. I booked a rental car, checked into a hotel nearby, and walked into that vineyard like I was supposed to be there. Because once I was. The ceremony was outdoors, under the same trees I'd once dreamed of. Jason was wearing the same suit he'd picked out for our canceled wedding. He probably thought no one would remember. Alex walked down the aisle to a song I'd once told her I wanted for my first dance. The irony was almost poetic. They didn't see me until the reception. It was during dinner. Everyone was buzzing from cocktails and toasts. Jason's best man had just finished some long, recycled speech about friendship and fate. People were wiping away sentimental tears, passing wine, clinking glasses. Then I stood up. I didn't ask for the mic. I just raised my glass, smiled politely, and said loud enough for the nearest few tables to hear. I'd like to say something about the bride and groom. There was this brief, delicious hush. I could see Alex's face go pale. Jason looked like he'd seen a ghost. I just wanted to say how inspiring it is, I began, to see two people stand here today, so in love, so happy, after everything they've been through. Most couples start with honesty, trust, a clean slate. But Jason and Alex? They started with lies, deceit, infidelity, gasps, actual, audible gasps. Someone dropped a fork. When Jason and I were engaged, I said calmly, and I was planning my wedding. This wedding, actually, Alex was sleeping with him behind my back. My best friend. My fiancé. I didn't find out until 3 weeks before the big day. But don't worry, I added, my voice steady as a razor. They've been very happy together since. At least, when they're not rewriting history. Jason stood up. Melanie, stop, he said, like I was embarrassing him at a PDA meeting, not delivering a well-deserved eulogy for his credibility. Why? I said. I'm just telling the truth. Isn't that what weddings are supposed to be built on? Alex tried to speak, but I cut her off. You don't get to control the narrative anymore, Alex. You don't get to pretend you didn't blow up someone else's life and then twirl down the aisle like you're the victim. People were shifting in their seats. A few guests looked genuinely horrified. Others, just intrigued. Because this is what they really came for, right? Not the love story, but the scandal, the cracks, the truth. I set down my glass. Anyway, I said, I just wanted to wish the happy couple all the best. Because if your marriage is anything like how it started, it's going to be unforgettable. Then I walked out, past the flowers I'd once picked, past the table settings I'd helped design, past the crowd of people whose eyes followed me like I was the only real person in the room. And for the first time in a long time, I felt clean. Not healed, not whole, but clean. Like I'd finally said the thing no one else had the guts to say. Like I'd taken back the part of the story they thought they could rewrite without me. I left Seattle for good the following spring. It wasn't dramatic. No final confrontation, no slammed doors or sobbing goodbyes. Just a moving truck, a signed lease in San Diego, and the quiet kind of exit that doesn't need to be loud to feel permanent. I'd found a job with a boutique design firm that specialized in sustainable interiors, small spaces, eco-materials, the kind of thoughtful projects that made me feel like I was doing something that actually mattered. The pay was decent, the team was solid, and for the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't constantly bracing for disappointment. I got an apartment just outside the city, nothing fancy, but full of sunlight and quiet. I filled it with soft rugs, secondhand furniture, and plants I somehow managed not to kill. I stopped checking Instagram for updates on Jason and Alex. I stopped trying to figure out who knew what. I stopped waiting for the apology that was never coming. Life didn't magically turn around overnight. It was slow, uneven. Some days I still caught myself wondering how things might have gone if none of it had happened. But those thoughts got softer over time, less like open wounds and more like faded bruises. Just old pain in the rearview mirror. Then I met Aaron. He wasn't flashy. He didn't sweep me off my feet or come in with grand gestures. He was just steady, kind. He worked in architecture, volunteered on weekends building tiny homes for displaced families, and had this dry, thoughtful way of speaking that made you lean in without even realizing it. We met at a collaborative project through my firm. Just another meeting, just another client. And 6 months later, we were sitting on my balcony drinking tea at midnight and talking about what made us feel safe. He didn't try to fix me. He didn't flinch when I told him about the wreckage I'd left behind. He listened. He asked questions. He let me talk until I stopped needing to prove I was okay. With him, I didn't feel like I was recovering from something. I just felt normal, grounded, like maybe the worst had already happened, and now it was time for something good. We moved in together last fall. He has this habit of leaving handwritten notes in the fridge. Sometimes it's a grocery reminder. Sometimes it's a dumb joke. Sometimes it's just have a good day. It's a small thing, but it gets me every time. There's no drama, no chaos. Just peace. Just two people who care about each other, building something one slow, honest day at a time. As for Jason and Alex, I don't keep up with them, but people talk. From what I've heard, they did get married, quietly, a few months after I exposed them. No big crowd, no venue photos. Just a courthouse and a handful of guests who either didn't know or didn't care. They moved into a rental house near the university district. From the outside, they look like a couple trying to hold it all together. But from what I've gathered through mutuals, it's not exactly a fairy tale. They don't trust each other. Shocking, I know. Friends say they argue over small things constantly. Texts, whereabouts, even how long the other person spends on their phone. I guess when a relationship is born in secrecy and lies, it doesn't exactly grow into something stable. There's always that shadow, that question mark hanging over everything. Sometimes I wonder if they look at each other and think, was it worth it? But then I stop myself. Because honestly, I don't care anymore. I'm not in their story now. I'm not part of their mess. I've got my own life, my own quiet, my own love that didn't come from betrayal.